Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my new episode of What Does It Take to Get the Right Shot? Today, we are going to talk about the equipment, and I'm going to try to explain you all the lenses that I have in my backpack. For sure, we have to start from the camera. Now, without a camera, as you can understand, you won't have any picture. So this is my baby. This is the baby that didn't let me sleep for at least a week when I purchased it, because it costed a lot and because you never know, is it the right purchase or not. This is a Canon 1DX Mark II. Is it the best camera ever? Well, for me, it is. Now, I'm not here and I don't even want to start to talk about Canon versus Nikon, what is the best. This is Canon. My father was a photographer before me. He always used Canon, and that's the only reason why I keep using Canon. I like it. I believe it's a very good product, and that's the only suggestion I can give you about the brand. I cannot tell you this brand is better than the other one. They are both very, very, very good, very high level for photography. Again, this is Canon. For me, is the best, but that doesn't mean he's the best in the market right now. When you first buy a camera, in the box, in the kit, you will always find, well, the camera itself, of course, and the lens 1855. The lens 1855, it's a wide angle that goes from 18 to 55. So you can zoom a little bit closer to your subject, but you cannot go further than 55. Is it a good lens? Yes, it is. Overall, at the beginning, when you want to learn how to use the camera, then once you get a little bit deeper, for sure you will figure out that that lens is not enough. Sometimes you want to go a little bit even closer to your subject, and the only way to do it with that lens is to step closer to your subject. Now, as I said, it's a very good lens. It's usually aperture-wise, the lens that you get in the box, in the kit, it's f4.5 to 5.6. Now, if you follow my videos, you will find a video that I'm completely and totally talk about the aperture. So today I'm not going to talk about the aperture, I'm just talking about the lenses. 1855, 4.5 to 5.6, cheap, very useful, but again, at some point, you will realize that it's not enough. So this lens, it's a 2470. So it's not as wide as 18, but it's a little bit deeper because it goes to 70 instead of 55. Also, in my equipment, in my lenses, I also have the 1635. So this one, it's even a little bit wider than the 18 because it's 16. And it goes to 35 instead of 55. So the 1855 that you will find in the box, it's not that wide as this one, but you can go a little bit closer than this one. Now, as you can see, those lenses are way bigger than the lens that you probably found in your kit. Why? Because both of these lenses are 2.8 aperture. So there are a lot of glasses in there, and that's why it's bigger and it's heavier. More glasses that allows you from 16 to 35 or from 24 to 70 to keep a 2.8 aperture. So during the evening, those lenses are way well more recommended than the lens that you found in the box. Just because the aperture is bigger in these lenses, which allows more light in, which means when it's dark or when you need more light, well, it's definitely more useful. Now, looking at all these lenses, I can see right away the 24-105. 24-105. Way, way better than these two lenses put it together. Why? Because I can go further to 105. I can come close to you without to walk close to you. Now, what is the deal with this lens? You can see the difference. It's a little bit smaller. Why is it smaller? Because there are less glasses in there. Now, if I have less glasses, what does it mean? That probably this aperture, it's a little bit smaller. In fact, this is a f4, 2.8 f4. So it's not as bright as this one. Now, every time we buy a lens, we make commitments. The commitments can be about the light or can be about the money. Of course, it's about the weight, because at some point when you have your backpack, everything will be heavy. And you can see that the more you add in your equipment, the heavier it will be. Now, I use this lens so much because, again, I can use this one instead of these two. 24-105, I can go way closer to my subject than these two lenses together. But it's a f4. It means that my aperture doesn't allow me so much light compared to the 2.8 f2.8 aperture that I have in these two lenses. So the question is, if I'm already complaining about this one, why do I have it? Well, during the day, we usually have light. When we have light, everything works. So if I'm in a trip that I know that I'm going to take pictures during the day, this one will save a lot of space compared to two, and will save a lot of weight on my shoulders in my backpack, and I can get closer to my subject compared to these two. If I know that I'm going to take some pictures during the evening, well, I already know that when I don't have daylight, I will need help. So the bigger my hole will be, this is the aperture, well, the more light comes in. So 2.8, it's better than f4. Now, looking at these lenses, what else do I have? I also have the 30. This is a 30 millimeter, 1.4. It's an awesome lens for portraits and for night pictures. When I say night pictures, I mean when I don't have light enough. Why? This is a 1.4. So the hole, the aperture, my hole in the lens, it's double than these lenses. It's 4 times more bigger than this lens. It's pretty good, right? Why is it so small if the aperture is so big? Because it's a 30. There's no zoom in that. It's a still 30 millimeter lens. So it might be good, but maybe I will have to come so close to get only what I want in the picture instead of a big frame and then crop it in post-production. So it is pretty cool, but it's a 30 millimeters. If I want a close-up, the only chance using this lens is to come closer to you. Very nice anyway. Now, your further question will be, so is this one useful? Is this one useful? It's the 24-105 useful? Is the 30 millimeter useful? As a photographer, and once you will start to enjoy being a photographer, you will realize that the more you have, the more you want. Of course, one lens is enough to take all the pictures you want. Sometimes having spare lenses will help you not only to have a different point of view, not only to have two different ideas of the same picture, but it will help you because the better you work at first, the less you will work in post-production. The idea is to make it right at your click and not thinking, oh, it's dark, it doesn't matter, I will correct it in post-production. We don't want that. Photography, it's way different than photographic. Same semantic, but it's a completely different concept. We want to make it right at first. I don't want to edit it in post-production. What else do I have? I have the fisheye. Bulb lens instead of a flat lens. A lens that really distort, but this is a 8mm. So if I use the lens right now, I just don't see you. I will see the door that you technically don't see right now on my right, and I will see my window that you technically don't see on my left. It's a very huge wide angle, but the wider you go, the more distort you will see the sizes. About the fisheye, you can see one specific episode of What Does It Take to Get the Right Shot, talking just about the fisheye. I love it. Now, honestly, if you ask me, do you always have it with you? Yes. Do you always use it? No. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. If I take a picture of a landscape, you won't see the straight of the lines, you will see something distorted. So not always works for any kind of pictures you want to take. Very nice. I like to have it in my equipment. I honestly used it probably not more than 2% of my entire photography career. What else do I have that I would like to show you? Well, I have another fisheye. Now, the difference between this one and this one is just that this is a original Canon lens. This is a Sigma 4 Canon lens. Which one is better? Now, at the beginning, when I first started to take pictures and I wanted to become a photographer, I thought, why should I spend a lot of money when I can get the same lens cheaper? Now, Sigma, it's a company that makes only lenses. Canon is a company that makes video cameras, and lenses, and many other electronic stuff, but we're talking about photography right now. Sigma makes only lenses. So because they can concentrate their employees to study and work only on the lenses, at some point, they can be cheaper. Now, they make lenses for Canon, for Sony, and for Nikon. Canon, of course, the grip and the attach is only for Canon cameras. Now, at the beginning I thought, let me go cheaper because it works anyway. I can take great pictures anyway, which is so true. But getting, I don't want to say a better photographer, but getting into photography deeper and deeper, I realized that when you have an original Canon attached to an original Canon camera, everything works perfectly. When you have a not original lens, because Sigma, it's not Canon, and you attach it into a Canon camera, it works perfectly. But if you ask me, can you see the difference? Yes, because the sensor in the camera can read that the lens, it's not an original lens, and sometimes it takes a millisecond before to send the information into the lens. Is it a millisecond very, very important? Maybe not at the beginning, but when you need to get the picture so quick and so right away, yes, it makes the difference. So when you use original lenses into original camera, it's 5, almost 10 times better. Let me give you another example. I do have a 7200 right here, and this is original Canon. I also have the 7200, not original Sigma. They are both 2.8 aperture. So technically is exactly the same lens. I used the Sigma for 7 years, and I felt the luckiest and the best person and photographer in the world. I used it. I made my mistakes, but I used it, and I never found anything wrong in that lens. I paid $2,400 for that lens. I'm sorry, $2,100. And then one day I tried on the same camera the original 7200 2.8 Canon lens. Wow, $2,500, $2,600. So we are talking about at least $400 difference. I tried, and let me tell you, the difference was huge. For a sport photographer, it was huge. I usually take sport photography as well, by the way, and that's where I've seen the difference, because when the runner, the soccer player, the football player is running and you need a shutter speed, you need a lens that connects so quick with the camera. And the Sigma one, very, very good, but not so good as the original Canon. Now, what else do I have and what else do we need in our equipment every day? Well, of course we need cards. You will find a video, a specific video in my channel just talking about the cards. These cards are very, very, very important. And that's why I separate one specific video just talking about that, because we don't realize how important a performant card is for our photography. What else do we need? Well, you see a big baby over here. This big baby is a 120 to 300 zoom, 2.8. Now, it's not original, it's not Canon, it's Sigma. Now, after 10 minutes that I'm talking, you're supposed to tell me, well, then that means that it's not working properly with your Canon camera. Well, unfortunately, it's true, but it's also not true. And let me tell you why. Canon never made a zoom that big. If you want a Canon 300 lens, it's a still 300. If you want a zoom that can go from 120 to 300, the only factory that actually made it so far, it's Sigma. It's really, really good. Let's keep talking about photography and actually sport photography. If you have a runner with the ball, a soccer player that is running right in front of you, if you have a 300 still lens, at some point the soccer player is so close to you that you won't fit the whole player into the frame. So the only way is to step back. Now, when you have 10, 12 pounds in your hand and the game is on and the soccer player is running to you, you don't have the time to skip back. Sometimes you have other photographer, you have a cameraman, you have the fence, and you cannot look behind you if you trip into something when you step back. So you will have a soccer player cropped into your picture. So sometimes you don't have the bottom part, the soccer ball, or you don't have the top part, which is the head. If you have a zoom, you don't need to step back. You can zoom in and out. You can allow more space in your frame or less space. And it's still 2.8, which means that during the night, during the evening, because the aperture is so big, you can allow even more light than if it's a 5.6 or 4.5. Now, Is it worth it? Oh, yes, it is worth it. It is worth it. I paid it more than $3,000. Probably now it's a little bit cheaper. I paid it more than $3,000. I will buy it another time if I need it. Canon, it's better. Quality-wise, yes, it is better. But you cannot have a zoom. So when we were talking about commitments, that's another commitment. You want original Canon, you have to buy the 7200. If you want to go longer zoom wise, you will have to buy the 300, but it's a 300 straight. No, you cannot zoom closer, or you cannot go a little bit wider. It's a 300. And then there is a 400. Now I do have the 500 as well. I couldn't put it on the table because it's already filled. But you can, yeah, you have the 500. But again, you want to photograph the lion, the tiger, or the bald eagle that it's on the tree all over there. Of course, you cannot go that close to the tiger or to the bald eagle. So the only way is to go closer with your lens. They invented the 600, the 800, the 1200. Now, the bigger you go, the heavier they are. The bigger you go, of course, the more expensive they are. The bigger you go, the less light you have. Now, I don't want to go deeper into the aperture because, as I said, I have another video about that. But this is the best commitment that you can make. Now, again, you are out for a trip and it's a vacation. What kind of pictures do you take during a vacation? You take people pictures, landscape picture, nature pictures, or whatever pictures, but one, not more than 2 lenses are way enough. So the 1855 that we started talking about, that you find in the kit, can be enough. You want to go a little bit closer to a subject that you cannot physically walk closer. The 7200, it's probably the lens that you need to complete your equipment at the beginning. And then once you start to like photography, once you decide what kind of photography you really would like to go for, then you will figure out by yourself that some lenses are so useful and you just need that, and some lenses you probably want. Now, just to give you an example, if you are a wedding photographer, well, of course you can go closer, maybe not that close sometimes, to your bride and groom. Well, definitely this is not the lens you need. This is probably the lens that you use the most in the church. And when you have the chance to go a little bit closer, any one of these are good enough. Now, I didn't talk about the flash. The flash is very important. The flash is important. Of course, during the evening more than during the day. But if, for example, right now, I'm in a place where I have the light that is coming from one side, so for sure the other side is darker. Now, if you use the flash, everything will be more dynamic. All the light will be spread all around, and you have pretty much the same light everywhere. So the flash is useful. Again, at the beginning, and I'm looking down because on the table where I have the iPad and recording the video, I have another flash. It's the flash where I started. I thought it was so good that I wouldn't need to buy any other flash. And one day, another photographer told me, would you mind to try mine and see if you see the difference? Well, I used it, and the day after I bought it. As I told you at the beginning about the baby over here, I didn't sleep for a week because this flash is $600 flash. The flash that I had before was $120, maybe even less. Now, sometimes we need to ask ourselves, if this one costs too much, probably there is a reason, right? There is a reason. Well, first of all, this is our original Canon, and the one I had before was not original. Now, for the same reason that I said before, chip and connection, original with original, work better, work faster. Or not original to original, work good. Good enough? It depends how deep you want to go into photography, how much from amateur you want to step into a real job, a profession. It depends what kind of picture you do. If you do sport photography, you don't need a flash 99% of the time. If you do weddings, well, the flash, it's 100% useful. You need it. And the more efficient it is, the better your picture will look at the end. Now again, I know that computer makes miracles today. Photoshop, Lightroom, Camera Raw, and many other programs will help you out if you didn't make it right at the click. We are here to discuss how to make it right. What does it take to get the right shot, using the right equipment, knowing what we are using, because every time we download a picture in our computer, it will take time to edit, it will take money, because you will need to learn how to use the editing program. And to learn it, you can spend money asking somebody to teach you, or you can spend a lot of time looking for a video that explains you how to use it. Time is money, remember. So let's try to make it right at first. Flash, yes, we want it. Now, what else do we have that I didn't talk about? We have the extender. The extender can be 1.4 per or 2 per. What is it and what does it mean? It means that when you attach this one to the lens, when you attach this one first to the camera and you attach a lens from here, this one allows you to go deeper, longer, 1.4 or 2 times more. So, for example, if I use this one with my 70-200, it means that from 200, because this one is a 2 per, I can go 400. It means that my bald eagle that is right over there on the tree, instead of going 200 times closer, I can go 400 times closer if I use them both. Now, it's a commitment, not only money-wise, but light-wise. The more I add to my camera and lens, the less light I will have. Now, this is a 70-200. If I attach this one, it becomes a 4.5, probably 5.6. So my hole, which means how big it is, how much light is coming through, from this, it goes from this, which means less light. Less light, it means that it gets darker and darker over there where my bald eagle is. It's a commitment. If it's very sunny, it doesn't matter if the aperture is 5.6 because I will have sunlight enough. If it's 7 p.m., which is usually where during the spring and the summer, we start to see a very light changing, a drop of light. If you use an adapter, a converter, probably 5.6 will be too dark and you won't be able to use it. So it's a commitment, not only about a $400 or $500 money that you will spend. It depends what kind of pictures you want to take. If you see a bald eagle over there at 7 p.m., you won't be able to use this one. It's going to be too dark. What else do we have? Well, we need a brush, right? We need a brush to clean our lenses often. I'm talking about the front of the lens, right? We need to brush them. So a brush, it's always, always, always good. When, for example, this one in the other side has a self-cleaner. that allows me to touch the lens not with my fingers, but allows me to clean the stronger, let's call it the stronger dust that doesn't come out with the brush. What else do we need to have? It's like a must. A little cloth that allows you to clean even deeper and even better your lenses. You do need stuff like this, because when you go in the desert or when you go in a national park and you have a lot of sand, even if you don't feel it, the sand, because it flies and it blows with the wind, it goes everywhere. The cleaner your lenses are, the better will look your picture when you download it in your computer. What else do we have? We have a remote control. Useful? Well, during the night it is. What about if you want to take fireworks pictures? Now, of course, you can work with long exposure. Follow my other videos about long exposures. You can click every time, yes. What about if I'm in Magic Kingdom, Walt Disney World? I don't know if you ever been. Magic Kingdom every night has fireworks in front of the castle. Now, no matter who you are, you will have somebody in front of you. No matter how early you will go there, you will have somebody in front of you. Not only somebody with a balloon, somebody with his own kid on the shoulders. So the castle is right in front of you, and the only way to avoid the other people in front of you, and no matter what, pay attention to that because it's very important. No matter what, whoever is in front of you is going to be taller than you, no matter what. So the only way to avoid the people is to put the camera above the people. Now, how can you stay in a long exposure doing that? Unfortunately, I'm sorry, maybe I just got out of the frame, so let me do it again over here. I cannot keep my finger pressed and keep my camera if I don't use a tripod. So if I need to use a tripod and avoid the people and go above the heads of the people, I need that my tripod will be at least 6 feet tall, 2 meters tall, European metric system. To do that, unless I'm very, very tall, which I'm not, the only way to reach the bottom to press every 10-15 seconds because I'm using a long exposure is to use a remote control. So I can press it, and not only, but at the same time, because the camera is clicking without me, just with the remote control, I can even enjoy the fireworks. So again, is it essential to have a remote control? No. Overall, because in 2020 now, you can download an app in your cell phone and you can click through your cell phone. So even if it's just $15-20 remote control, which works Wi-Fi with your camera, you don't need it. You like it, you buy it. You think it's useful for you, you buy it. Not essential. Well, not essential like some other stuff that I showed you. Something that I believe it's really essential, well, of course, it's a battery. Of course, it's a battery charge, which you can find it in your kit, no matter what. But what about a spare battery? Well, sometimes you know that you're going out there and taking just 20 pictures. You don't need a spare battery for that because you can always come back, charge your battery, and start all over to take pictures. What about if for some reason you forgot to turn your camera off, you put it in the backpack, and the day later you go out there, and when you try to take a picture, it just blinks out of charge, your battery is done. What do? What about if you are in vacation, or what about if you are in a place that you know that you won't go back? You cannot risk that you won't be allowed to take pictures because your camera doesn't work because the battery is off. Having a spare camera is useful Always, 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 because no matter what happens, you are safe. Now, these batteries, because the baby is $6,400, of course the battery is at least $120, $150. So I thought a lot before to buy a spare battery, but again, is it useful? Yes. Is it essential? Maybe not for you, but for the job that I do every day, that I take hundreds and hundreds of pictures, yes. If I'm out there in the desert and I'm having a photography workshop with other people and we walk around the desert again, or the horseshoe bend, which is this one by the way, or the Grand Canyon, I cannot risk to be without the battery during the day. I don't want to say time out, let me go back to the hotel or the bar or wherever and let me charge it for an hour and we start in an hour. We start back in an hour. I cannot do that. I need to be sure and be safe with a spare battery. So I suggest always to have a spare battery in your backpack. Now, of course, batteries. Oh, you will need a lot of batteries. Always charged, because you're using the flash and you don't know how much you're gonna use it. So for the same reason, you need spare batteries. Now, let me show you something that you don't need it. I decided that I need it at some point. It's a quantum battery. It's a big battery charge. Also has the outlets where you can plug it. You want to plug the studio lights so you can use the studio lights outdoor where you don't have an outlet? You can do it. You can attach your flash, or you can plug your batteries and charge your batteries while you are using a set of other 4 batteries in your flash. What that means? It means that outdoor you can use the same equipment that you can use indoor at this point. Very useful. $500-$600 worth the money. Now, again, if you are just going to vacation, oh, you don't need it. Of course you don't need it. You just need a couple of more spare batteries. If you are working in a wedding and you need to be sure that nothing goes off, yes, useful. And it's worth it because it will pay off after 2, 3, 4 weddings. So this is a quantum battery that I suggest. What else do we have? Did I talk about everything? I think I did. The only thing that I didn't talk about are the filters. I'm not a big fan of the filters, but as you can see, I have them. What the filters are? The filters are UV piece of glasses that you attach, you add to your lenses, because sometimes it's too bright out there and you cannot put the sunglasses on the lenses, so they invented kind of sunglasses that you can just slide in this one, roll this one on your lens, and you can avoid some light without to use the sunglasses. Why do I need to avoid the light? We just said, and we always say, that photography, it's about the light. Well, just to be clear, you will see a specific video about that, but I want to explain you before to say goodbye for the day. If I want to do a long exposure, now I don't know how much you see about this picture. This picture is during the day, but it's a long exposure. Long exposure, it means that I keep my shutter speed, my mirror in the camera, open. The more open you keep it, the longer exposure, the more information are coming in, more light. Now, if it's already very sunny, and I allowed even more light than what I need, I will see this kind of effect in the water, but it's too bright. I need to avoid the light. That's one good example how to use the filters. The other example is don't use the filters just come back a little bit later when it's a little bit darker. Sometimes you cannot. If you are in a tour or you are in a vacation and you're just walking around and you stop by a waterfall, you don't want to go back because you know that at the end of the day you will be somewhere else. The only way to take the pictures right away, well, you need to think out of the box. Well, you need to know what do you have in your equipment, how far you can go with your camera, with your lenses, and at some point, if you have the filters, yes, use the filters. So, recap of the day, everything is essential, nothing is essential. As long as you know what you want, and as long as you can take the pictures that you want, that's it. You don't need anything more. Now, as a photographer, I tell you, and I keep telling myself every day, oh, I wish I have $10,000 and buy this one and that one and that one. But if you check over here, I have 10, 12 lenses, and of course I'm gonna use one by one at a time. So while I'm using this one, I'm not using this one. While I'm using this one, I'm not using this one. For me, it's safer to think, I'm going out there, let me bring this one, this one, this one, and that one. Is the 70-200 not enough? I know that I can go further, deeper with the 300. Here's the 300 not enough? I know I have in my backpack, huge and very heavy backpack, I have the 500. Now, if I'm taking a picture of something that is right here, well, let me use the 2470 or the 1855, which is the lens that you have in your kit. Now, because the 1855, it's wide, if I want to take a picture of just you, and I don't want any distraction, I don't want anything else in the frame, well, I have two options. I can come closer to you and avoid anything that I don't need, or I can change my lens and zoom a little bit closer and get in the frame only what I want. So, again, everything is useful, of course, otherwise they didn't invent it. Nothing is essential. So before you spend a lot of money just because you saw it on internet or maybe after my video, think about it. What do I want? Now, if you want to take a picture of your food, definitely you will never use this one. It's too heavy. You might use this one, maybe the 7200. If you want to take a picture of a landscape, you need to be wide. So the wider, the better. And now that I remember, I wanted to leave at the end of this video the best lens that so far, for at least the past 4 or 5 years, Canon invented. It's this one. This is a 1124. It's a huge lens, and as you might see, it's a bulb lens as well. It's not flat like all the other. It's a bulb like the fisheye, but it's not a fisheye, which means that it doesn't distort as much as the fisheye does. Why this one is better than the fisheye? Well, you can see the difference, and you can start to understand maybe that in here I have way more glasses than in here. Having more glasses allows me to have more light. How? Because I'm wider. Now, how good is this lens? For a nature but overall landscape photographer, wow, this is the best lens that you can get. You go to the Grand Canyon, not just because it's a Grand Canyon, but because it's huge. You know that no matter how wide you are, you won't be able to fit it all in one picture. Now, if you use the fisheye, it will distort the size. And at some point, it's harder to understand how it is. Now, if you've never been and you look through the pictures, you won't understand how majestic and huge and amazing is the Grand Canyon. So I can use another lens that It goes wide, 11 wide. It's huge. It's a huge wide angle, but it doesn't distort. So for landscape photography, this is amazing. I didn't want to buy it because it's very expensive. It's like more than $2,000, $2,400. So the question that everybody needs to ask to themselves is, okay, how many pictures do I take per day? And at the end of the day, of those many pictures that I took, what do I need? Do I need to see a person? Because if it's a portrait, of course, you don't need to be wide. You just want the person in the picture. So this one is not useful. It's $2,400 that you can spend in a different way. If it's the Grand Canyon that you want to put in there, this is way better than the long zoom. You don't need to go closer to the Grand Canyon. You are already at the edge of it. You want to see as much as possible. So every lens has a purpose. Every lens is useful. No lens is essential. Depending on what you want to do, that's the time you will decide, yes, I've saved some money. Yes, it will pay off if I buy it. Yes, I want to add that lens to my backpack, to my equipment. I think that this is it for today. I hope I gave you a kind of large view of explanation of what I have in my equipment, what I use the most, what I have and what I don't have, what you should have and what you shouldn't have. So for today is all. Thank you again for following me. It's been a little bit longer than as usual today, but I hope it's been helpful. Thank you so much. I hope to see you for my next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.